And we are not live. We are recording here at FMA Discussion, episode 182, with GM Emil Bautista of Kajukenbo Bautista. And I was really excited getting this interview because Alex just kind of threw it as a suggestion to me. I didn't even know you guys were in Vallejo. And I was like, wow, okay, how can I turn it down? Because actually next week I'm going to be here again in San Jose. Okay, still quite far, but I don't mind traveling like 400, 500, 600 miles like both weeks just to absorb this knowledge. Because here at the FMA Discussion, we don't strictly stick with FMA per se, but systems that are also adjacent, like CLOT, and obviously Kaju.
Yes.
Has a very strong, FMA flavor to it because of all the different systems like Chorley Food and all these ones coming and coalescing and becoming one hybrid system. What you could argue as the first hybrid art in the States of America, essentially. Mm-hmm. So I just want you to talk about your initial background when they sent me the questions, how you got started in your martial art, and what was the general environment that you grew up with here in local Vallejo area or NorCal when you were growing up?
Well, all I can say is that my start in the martial art was back in the 60s. And I've always wanted to do the Filipino martial art, but because of the idea at my age and my time, there was not available. A lot of it was more of the empty hand. And I was fortunate to encounter a gentleman by the name of Tony Ramos, who was my teacher, and his brother, John Ramos, also was a teacher in San Francisco, both taught empty hand. And they're both from Hawaii. And my chance of getting involved in something from a nation was something that I wanted to do. And so I decided to take up the martial art with Tony Ramos in 1963. And then from there, we received my black belt and opened up the school here in 1968. And we've been doing this for over 50 years. And the enjoyment of doing this is something that I really am happy doing because it gives me a chance to show the environment of what us Filipinos can do. But the thing is, I still was intrigued with the idea of the Filipino martial art. Yeah. Because, again, in the days that my youth, when I was living in this area, we lived in the Solano County Valley, and we used to visit Lodi or Stockton very periodically to go check with the old Pinoys there, the Manoms. And what little bit of martial art or Filipino martial arts did see was a couple of guys banging with sticks. And then when they observed me watching, they kind of like stopped because I guess they didn't want anybody to know what was going on. So I never really had a chance to really get involved in the Filipino martial art. Later on, through the voice of help of Gerald Sola, I had a chance of watching a gentleman called Ineta Preces perform in his martial art, Filipino martial. And my gollies, I really enjoyed what he was doing because it coincided with the same thing I do with my empty hand. And I know that the Filipinos, they start with the weapon first and then the hand empty. But we did it vice versa. So Mr. Sola and I worked on the concept of our Kajukenbo that he learned from John Ramos, and we combined it and blended it together as much as we can with the Preces system. And we went there and went from there.
With your official formal training with the art started in 1963.
In 1963.
Wow, that was a Johnny Hartman, John Coltrane era, and like the assassination of like JFK. How old were you during that time? Now, not to make you feel old, I just, want to know, on average, this is a question that we ask, like, when do people start training their art? When did you start training?
I was in my, let's say, mid-20s, early 20s when I first started. Because when I graduated high school in 57, and went into service and then got out and got married, the 60s was something that I needed to do to keep myself going. And like I said, basketball, baseball, all those other athletic games was not really my fortes. So martial art was something that I like to do because it gave me a chance to do something, creatively and physically. So
when you during like the first few like years of training martial arts and even up to now, were there any particular type of people that you met that just kind of blew you away?
Not really, except for my teachers that came from Hawaii.
Yeah, that you were amazed of. I mean, meant to say that you were like, wow, this guy is really something. Like,
yeah, they were phenomenal, and like what they did was very strong, and it gave me the chance to say, hey, I can do this as well if I work and try it. And this is what I did to try to better myself in the martial art, so I can be just as good, if not better, as my teachers.
You're one of the elders, and so one thing that I would want you to talk about is the stories that were passed down to you by Emperado and Tony Ramos about the meetings of these different people. How are they able to synthesize and combine that original knowledge base of Kajukenbo? Because I'm guessing, like, what did they meet in the plantations, or how did these different races came about? And
the only thing I can say about the Kajukenbo system is because it derived with 5 different instructors. To my understanding, because I was too young then, these 5 instructors, they were all in their 20s, early 20s, and they all had different martial art background. One was in Korean, one was Japanese, 2 Filipinos, and one was Chinese. And due to the fact that they were friends and they lived in the same area in Hawaii, that they got together periodically and worked out and tried different things to see how it worked. And I think one of the beauty of it is because of the fact that when the naval base was there, they had to do something to protect their lady friends, and this is what they utilized to do it by using the martial art.
So can you repeat that again? Essentially, it was to protect their girlfriends.
We were lady friends or whomever that might be wanting to harass the military personnel that wanted to make some gestures with the ladies there.
Wow, I didn't. So that's a really common human motivation, is to protect your loved ones, essentially.
Yes, yes.
You said that when you met the FMA practitioners, particularly the likes of GM Ernesto Presas, they start with a weapon first. In the Kaju system, you didn't grow up like that. You had to learn the empty hand, then you learned the weapon system?
Yeah, because we didn't. The only person that actually had any type of weaponry was Emperado, who was taught by his uncle, I don't know his first name, Padilla, in Cebu. And he was the one that was given the idea of the Filipino stick fighting. But they didn't pursue that as much because it's all empty hand at the time.
Wow. And then I'm guessing during these early days, people got really rough and tumble. That's a different generation, right?
Yes.
Was it not uncommon to see like broken bones? Maybe like a cut, like when you were training? Because these are kind of very hardcore men. I've heard like the stories. How can you teach us any kind of like lore, like like stories from back in those days, those training days?
No, I really don't have any of the days except during our training, But I know that the training that the guys like Uncle John Ramos and Tony Ramos, they get real bad fisticuffs, and they didn't really hold back. They really, it's the idea of survival.
How did you for the empty hand component? Did you guys use any kind of desification training, meaning like a makiwara board? Like toughening up the bones in your carpal.
They were out there if we needed be. Most of it is just the empty hand.
Cool, cool. And I'm guessing a lot of the students also, because this is America, this isn't the Philippines. They're all different sizes.
Oh yes, that's the beauty of the art. Even in empty hand as a Filipino, you have different sizes and weights, and you go by what the opponent is. And this is what the Kajukenbo system as well as the Filipino system, they work against things like that. We're not all the same size, so we have to work with the fact that we have to work against different opponents of the different weight and size to help defend ourselves.
And in the early days, did you see any women in the classes, or were there kind of?
There were women, but not as much. In fact, my first students, I only had like about one lady. It progressed. Like I said, the fact is because I was friends with the person, she wanted to learn how to do the martial art. So that's what I taught her.
How integral is the religious component with Kaju?
Pardon?
How integral is the spiritual component with Kaju? Did you guys do any prayers before you?
We have a tradition that we go through every time a ritual that we have our spiritual concept before we start, and we have the spiritual concept at the end. But in the middle, we have what we do our physical concept, but we do have the spiritual concept. And it helps our mental thinking to be able to do our physical movements.
How did you because you kind of move I'm not being ageist, I'm just kind of keeping it real. Yes. You move really well for 83. Is there a secret like you and David Hines and Diana Santo for upkeep? Like what's your diet? Like, do you practice any internal martial arts? Do you do yoga?
Well, the thing is, okay, I guess some people are surprised that I'm 83 years old.
Yeah.
I don't feel it. And I think it's because of our nationality. It's the fact that we feel young. I credit it to that. And also, a lot of it could be because of the working out and training mentally as well as physically in what we do here. It helps the body, become as strong as possible.
One of the prize questions that was sent to us was the methodology and mentality of Kajukenbo was always the importance of thinking of multiple opponents. Thinking of multiple opponents. That's one of the key training principles or ideas that is like embedded in you when you do Kaju, right? Can you talk about that? Because like most martial arts styles, they think of it in terms of dueling, like one-on-one. Kaju's thinking of like dispatching one opponent to the next. And can you go over some of those principles or those ideas?
That's hard to grasp the concept on. It's mainly on our training. What we try to do to endure the fact that we are trying to protect ourselves the best we can, and being able to move properly against an opponent is what we try to do.
So when people are coming at you, how do you get them to be in line with one another so that you can
training? That's it. I mean, it's not an overnight thing. It's something that even in Filipino martial art, you have to be able to be precise. So that's what I'm getting at. The FMA method as well as the empty hand, you arrive at the fact that you have to train yourself to be able to maneuver against an opponent properly by training. And it's training that does it.
It's training that does it. Typically when they start you off in that multiple opponent methodology, how many do you start off? Is it like 2-on-1, 3-on-1, and then it progresses?
It's a progression of 1-on-1 and 1-on-2 and 1-on-3. Just practice to get the idea of how to maneuver and get punctured, and being able to visualize the fact that there might be an opponent that's coming at you. in the middle, left or right side. So instead of head movement, you do the eye focus to be able to see what's going on.
And then particular one, like how do you read tells? How do you read telegraphs? Like when an opponent has a stance, like what areas of the body do you look at? Do you look at the body in totality?
Actually, I look at the guy's eyes to make sure that blinking white, because the eyes tells the story. If you don't, if you can't see what that guy's doing in his eyes, then you don't know what the body's going to be doing.
Wow. I'm sorry, I don't get that.
Well, what I'm getting at is if I flinch or my eye movement, then I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
But if it's a relaxed eye, the eyes don't move at all, then there's nothing really going on. But if he makes some gesture, the eyes will tell you.
I'm really impressed by your answer because like we never. It might be like the first time I ever got that in discussion. It's kind of like that movie Scarface, right? That's famous line. The eyes, Chico, they never lie.
Yeah, I mean, like Professor Gerald, he might have another concept. Like I said, we all work with different concepts on the idea of what we can do and how to do it to improve ourselves better. And then we give that to the students. But I have to admit this also. As long as I've been in the martial art, I am also learning. I'm also trying to practice and learn what is given to me by my peers. Because sometimes I go over the line thinking I know it all, but then sometimes, well, how about this? And then I said, my gollies, like Professor Gerald, well, how about this movement? Hey, you're right. So we gotta look at both sides. So
a question to ask is, do you do any kind of breath work training? A lot of the questions that were sent to me, particularly when I said that we were going to interview you, is the question of like preserving longevity. Because you're in your 80s and then you move so well, you're kind of like Hines and Guru Inosanto. Do you do any kind of internal breath work? Is that taught in Kaju?
Internal on your own. I mean, we do have classes where we do the breathing and so forth, internal energy. But it all comes into play when we do our what we do in our class movements.
I'm sorry to be asked this in a selfish way. You don't have to answer us, right? But can you give me an example of that? Can you demo? Like I know that the demo is supposed to be later on in the interview, but I'm really curious about that breath work question. Like maybe a basic like breath.
That's something. It's like Tai Chi.
Oh.
They have the breathing, the in, the out, the push, the flow, slow motion, and it's all in the breathing.
So it's like, is it a concept of like taking it from the Dantian?
In the diaphragm.
In the diaphragm. Mm-hmm. And so this is a very important question for me to ask, because some people that didn't learn the old way, they get injured, right?
Yes.
Do they teach you also pull and push out?
If the student, like we don't do that all the way. It's just normal training to do something of that nature. And because we're not into that field of internal.
Right.
We're almost physical.
Yeah, you're a very hard art.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, long short stories because I worked out with a Tai Chi person, and because of his motion, which was very slow but smooth, and mine was very hard, then he was knocking me all over the place because of the fact that I was too tense. And so this is where I learned to learn how to breathe so you can execute your movement.
So that's actually what my next question is going to be at, one that was sent to us. Can you share any like war stories back in the day? Like, someone came in your school and be like, you guys suck. And then it was like a scene from a Kung Fu movie. It's like, Master is like, long. Point you guys out. It's like, get rid of this guy. Like, did you have anything like that, like back in the day? Like,
not really, no.
No. So basically, like, the reputation was so high, dojo breakers didn't even want to come.
Well, I think to give you an idea of what my reputation is because in the days I used to attend bar. Now, being who I am and being a martial artist, they were under the assumption that I knew how to take care of myself, which I did. But there was an incident where I was flying over the bar to stop fights. And that was a big thing to the people that didn't know anything about the martial art. They just knew that this little guy jumped over the bar and tried to stop people from fighting. And so the idea is that it gives them an idea of the fact that, oh, this guy must be a super giant. No, I'm just a normal person that was able to catch the right place to make my movement to go with the bar. But I'm not going to tell them.
Yeah, of course, you never
worry about that.
Yeah, never started. Can you give us tips and advice? Being someone that would kept the peace in bars, bar hand, having guard duty, that kind of thing, on how to deal in that kind of scenario. Well, what's like, maybe give us like a bullet point, 10, it doesn't have to be 10 items, it could be any items that you're willing to share, of how to deal with that environment. Because, there's a lot of people that are like hot-headed or they're drunk or,
Yeah.
So were you like basically the character of, what was the guy in Roadhouse? What's that actor's name? Yeah, so were you like a Sam Elliott, Patrick Swayze kind of dude? Like, the
No, I went to my own. I mean, I think the people that knew who I was respected that. And so they wasn't about to try and make me have to with it. The people who didn't know were told they don't, because you're in the wrong house. But otherwise, everything was always peaceful.
Everything was always peaceful.
Yes.
Like, you were able to. So share us, because here's the thing, that's a martial technique, de-escalation techniques. Can you tell us like what you told them, like to kind of calm him down, or?
No, there was no verbal. It just let them see what I've done, if they can see it, and just let it go by. And then, like I said, eventually they say, "Hey, I like what you do. I want to join your class."
Did you?
We're awesome sales pitch.
Did you pull any kind of like really smart, quick tricks? It's like, let's take it outside, and then they go outside, and then you lock the door.
No, that's not like that. Because we did have people that was on the door itself. It was the people that inside that was starting the ruckus. And if it was my side of the bar, that's when I had to intervene.
When it comes to Kaju, again, another question that was sent to us. I try to memorize this the night before. That's why I stay up so late. You know what I mean? And it's just a difficult thing running FMA discussion, but I have a lot of passion. I'm one of the guys who does it. I'm not the only guy. But trying to memorize all these questions that were sent out to me. One that was sent out was the question of back in the olden days. Did they incorporate any kind of a little bit of ground fighting in Kaju? Like meaning like takedown and finishing in the ground?
It was all. That was part of Kajukenbo. Uncle John is his teacher, and so was mine. We always used the groundwork.
Can you show some of that right now for us?
Not really.
No? So you...
No, because it's going to be hard. It's showing the groundwork.
Maybe we could do like, after, because... Yes. So that's a very central component of Kajukenbo from the very beginning. Like where there's like the stand-up component, there's the weapon component, and then there's like finishing them in the ground component as well.
This is Kajukenbo. This is what we do. In other words, we don't stop till the fight's over. That type of thing. And we don't just, in like some system, they'll hit you one time and they'll expect you to go down. In the Kajukenbo system, we work it until the guy can't come back up. Let's look at FMA. If you hit the person in the right time, like the arm, the head, the knee, he's not going to come back up again.
No.
See? Because of the fact that you are finishing him up. And that's what I enjoy the FMA about. That you're going to have a similarity of our empty hand. Take the guy down, beat him up, and then walk away. And the guy don't come back up again and jump to your back.
Right. Is there do you guys practice any forms? Like, because like when you think of FMA, you will have the heaven 6 count with the Sinawali. When you think of Sila, you have the Lanka and the Juru, right? Is there like something similar to that in Kaju?
We do. We have our piñons, we have concentrations.
basically it's our katas, and we have here we have 15 of each, and basically it's like a self-defense, but in dancing.
Empty hand. I mean, empty.
Can you show us that later on? Like, we'll do that in the end of the interview. I'm just kind of I'm trying to power through the questions that were sent to us.
I can show you all that stuff. You should have told me I would have had my cup on.
That's what I'm saying. We can come
Yeah. The thing about Kajukenbo is we don't hit the face as the main focus of the strike. We hit the groin.
So here's the thing.
The groin, when you hit somebody in the groin, automatically what happens? He buckles down.
Right.
And then when he buckles down, that's when we attack. We attack multiple times. Like if we do our self-defense. Let's say somebody tries to punch us. So the first thing you gotta do is block it, counter, and then the groin. So when you do all three together, full speed, basically you're knocking them down right away. It's not about, 1, 2. It's 1, 2, 3. And then
so it's a simultaneous strike.
Yeah, simultaneous.
So I'm just gonna make an example, right? If this is their face and then
yes,
right? So
absolutely. Yeah,
and because what's gonna end up happening, they'll be like,
always look at the body chemistry.
That's
body chemistry will tell you what will happen to this guy. So let's say you strike him in the face. What's going to happen when you strike him in the face? Normally, when you hit him in the face, he either goes back or he goes forward, depending on the strike that you're going to apply. So if you hit him in the face, full contact like this, his head is going to go back. So in our system, when we hit the arm, just like parrying, this is just like Filipino martial art. When you parry and then you strike, parry, strike, right? Boom, strike, right? Like silat. So basically in Kaju, we hit the arm. Basically, when you hit the arm, disarm it, right? The arm will just go numb.
Well, we're also throwing the groin kick.
Yeah. But the groin kick,
here's the thing. That is very illuminating to me. So when these old men came together, there had to have been some kind of old school jiu-jitsu component to it.
Yes, they did.
So from who?
That was from Joe Hall.
Because here's the thing, like in Kyoto Jiu-Jitsu, basically before it got codified to Kodokan Judo, even when they go to the ground and they're in the guard, there's always a groin slap. There's always a groin strike. Yeah. Either even when you slap in the head, you go directly, down there, right? Or if I'm in the guard, sometimes in order to pass the guard, I just grab the groin or slap the groin, right, to break the guard, basically. So that's really old jiu-jitsu,
That's some of the application.
Whatever was started back in the 60s or 50s, that's what we're doing here. We kept it in our program. We didn't change it. But what we did was we're evolving more and more.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I wanted you to talk about that because the official name of the school is Kajukenbo Bautista. I want to talk about your innovations, like things that you kind of tweaked, things that you learned from other systems and put in, tips that were given to you by GM Ernie that you incorporated, kind of thing, and kind of like your overall journey, not just in FMA, but like the different systems at Kajukenbo, that you're like, there's a more efficient way to do this. Like, can you comment on that?
Well, it took the 5 guys to give an idea of what and how to do things. They experimented, many movements, grab and do the judo mark or do the jiu-jitsu or just do a high kick to the head and come down with a low kick to the body. So, and the Chinese, they kind of like get an idea of the flow of their hands when they grab or move.
They actually, so those 5 guys, they actually sparred? Those 5 guys?
They did. I don't know if to call it sparring, but they tested. Okay, those 2 gentlemen are per se different FMA practitioners, but yet they'll explore and see. Not that our mind's better, but can mine work just as good as yours?
Just like what we were doing yesterday when we were hanging out with Alvin, like kind of showing him. I show you my stuff, you show me your stuff.
Yeah, you may never use it. Yeah. But the point is, you have an idea now.
You have an idea.
Yes. Yeah. Because you might need it, or what do you eventually?
So I was going to ask, because you guys play rough and tumble, did you guys like wear any kind of like guard protection or like a mouthpiece or like?
Yes, we do. We have mouthpieces and groin.
So
We have a groin
do
protection.
you have friends that are like missing teeth, like you know? He's like, oh. So they're
Not that we know of. Nothing in that nature.
And so you grew up here in NorCal Vallejo area. They were basically Big Island. Am I correct? The five guys of Kaju.
From Hawaii.
Yeah. How do you compare the mentality of like Hawaiian people, Asian people, to like mainlanders?
The old ones, they're treacherous. They were mean. They were our teachers, right?
Yes, sir.
John, they it's nothing. In fact, I watched Uncle John, his teacher, take on 3 guys.
What?
Oh my golly!
True story.
I'm serious.
So hold on, we gotta get
And there's a mentality. He was whooping those guys.
wait, this is gonna be like the bonus section.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was an attorney back in the 70s.
so tell us about this. Tell us about this. Tell us about the story.
Yeah, okay, Gerald,
Yes, sir.
tell them about that story.
So what happened was we were in a tournament. This is Kajukenbo, John Ramos School back in San Francisco.
My brother's teacher.
And Ed Parker School from LA. They were here for the California Karate Championship in 1973 or 74. So we had team competition. We had our school, and then we had Ed Parker School. And John Jr. was fighting this one guy from Ed Parker. So John Jr. was beating this guy up. I mean, really bad. Boom, 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 right? And he goes chasing John, and he was already out of the ring, and he was still trying to hit John. So I got up, and I kind of pushed the guy. I said, hey, break up, stop. So he came right at me, man. He was just running at me. Then the other guys, Vince Medali and everybody else from our team, which is a 5-man team, everybody got up. And I looked over there, and they started rushing us, all of them. So John Ramos, John Sr. was right here on my side, my left side. I seen him go right in the middle of the ring to break it up. And guys were trying to rush him. And all I could see was him go like this, boom, and then one guy, boom. I was like, holy shit. He just took over the ring, He was horrible. He was just bam, bam, and he was kicking. And then he got him and said, come on, let's go. I mean, everybody just kind of, here's a little guy. He's only 5'5", I think, 5'6", and everybody just went zoop. I mean, he was boom, boom. He was just kicking. Boom! Come on, let's go.
It was bad.
He was so hold on a second. This little dude was he's about 5'5", and when he did like maybe
a straight forward kick and a back kick.
So I'm checking like a forward kick and a back kick. They flew.
Yeah.
Was it like that movie with?
It's just like watching a karate movie, like one of those.
So do you remember that film by Bruce Lee called Return of the Dragon where he fought Chuck Norris? Remember there was a part of that where there was a guy holding.
But this is way more than that.
A Muay Thai shield.
Yeah.
And he flew. It was kind of like that.
No, John is not a high kicker. He's more of a low kick.
No, it was a mid kick.
Mid kick. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, that's where he's supposed to be.
But the timing of it was just like slow motion because, like I said, the two teams that were sitting in Parker School's right here, we were right here, and these guys tried to rush us. John got in between the two groups, right? And when he got in between, they thought they could just rush him. It was just like a rush. It became a gang fight. This guy tried to rush. John got in the middle, and whoever this guy is, he got the blunt of the force. He kicked him, flew this way, and then somebody came from the backside and tried to hit him from the back, and he just did a boom, and then you can see the guy just flying, right?
And this is with shoes on.
Yeah, he had his shoes on, and he went, hey, come on, let's go, like that. But that was the greatest, almost realistic fight that happened.
It was real.
Yeah, I mean, it was real. And then you could hear the announcer, somebody from the judges say, John Ramos School and Ed Parker School, you're both disqualified. You need to get the hell out of here. They kicked both schools out of the...
Yeah, I know this is already going to be one of the highest viewed FMA discussion episodes. This is like the stories that people live for.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So sir, like basically when you saw it, you two were there. It was like a video game. Like you see two dudes like you have Barber there, like
Only your generation would say
Back in the days, right? You know, it was macho kind of a thing. Our school is better than your school.
Yeah.
So back in the days, both Vallejo School and San Francisco and Fairfield School, Kajukenbo, we were very popular for being rough.
Right.
You know, we were rough. So we had rivals. There's Navarro from San Francisco, and they're mostly Mexican. And then you had another school from Oakland, Billy Owens. They were all black and they were all tall. I mean, these guys are tall.
And then there's Ralph Castro.
And then Ralph Castro, which is a mix of Filipino Mexicans. And then so each one of these schools, they were trying to represent the school and themselves. So there was a lot of rivalry back in the 70s of who's better than us. So here comes John Ramos School. We decided to get badass. We put Kajukenbo San Francisco team on our backs. So when we go into the dojo, you could hear the people whisper, "Oh shit, here comes Kajukenbo San Francisco team." You know, one of those kind of things. Oh, here they come. You know, Kajukenbo so and so. So when they see that we're coming, they actually know that here's the fighters. You know, here are the people that's gonna rumble with you guys.
That's it.
But back in those days, like, did you train with like 16-ounce gloves or something? Or?
We didn't have pads.
What?
Back in the 70s, the only thing that you had protection was a cup.
So you train with your raw hands?
Raw hands, barefoot.
Yeah.
That's how we used to fight back in the early 70s. This is how we used to fight.
You were a child back then.
I was born 71. So.
Yeah. So,
but our karate school was like that too.
yeah, history started to evolve with the pads because of, regulations. I think it started back in the 80s.
Something like that.
They started to wear on headgear. They started to put on pads.
We couldn't afford that back then.
Yeah. That was another thing. There was only certain schools that be wearing equipment. Other than that, we didn't have equipment. We fought.
And we were fighting because we wanted it. It felt good.
Well, yeah. And the thing about it is we didn't bring weapons to it.
Yeah.
It was all empty hand.
Yeah.
It was all duking.
So that was essentially what's
I'm not gonna come and get you with the gun.
That's what's so great back in the days, particularly when it comes to gang violence, in the sense that
Fighting.
It was actually fighting. Like and then when someone won, that was it, right?
That's it. Then you become friends.
Laughing at the gloves.
I mean, you want your ships back, but you still become friends.
And then how did, I'm sorry to ask this is kind of a testosterone question. This is my personal question. This did not come from the list that was sent to me the last few days or so. How did the girls respond to all this? Were they like, "Oh wow, he's cute"? Like, did they like Kaju guys? Like, you know what I mean? Or we got to record that. What did you say again, man? The guy was shaking from my laughter. So that was a real thing, right? They were like,
it was real.
That was part of the fun.
Like a biker thing, like kind of like a biker
Reputation.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Reputation comes with it. I mean, it is a thing. Back in the 70s, it was a reputation that people want to follow. Just like this school here. Ask anybody here in Vallejo, they know about Kajukenbo here.
Yeah. So
and a lot of the fellows that came from here also started here.
Yes.
All the Filipino guys and the Vallejo guys, the B guys, started here.
The main problem is, again, I'm not blaming Mark B. Wiley for this. When they think of FMA in America, they think of like Los Angeles and Stockton. Actually, Stockton, because
that's where it originated.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, actually, Filipinos have been in Vallejo longer, at least a decade or a decade and a half longer before essentially what is a Bracero program, but for Filipinos, like a pre-Bracero program, basically. when they moved, the Monroes came here in the 20s.
That's right. Correct.
In Stockton, so my question is, in Stockton, lead up to the question, in Stockton, like we think of like a cross rivalry between like Bahalana and Serrata. Was there something equivalent to that with Kajukenbo here? Did you have like a school where like, oh man, this is kind of like we're Bloods and the Crips, or like basically like you rule on opposed and ruled the valley, basically?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we had any rivalries. I think pretty much a lot of these schools know us.
You don't call them rivalries, but other schools that want to try to see how well they can teach.
Yeah.
Yeah. The main thing about our school here is because, like anything else, you have overhead. And the overhead kind of, if you don't have enough pupils, is going to take you because you need their expense and their money to pay the expenses. And we're fortunate here because this is ours. This is, we can have as many or have as few and still have a good session.
So, I guess like one of the closing lead-ups to the question is like, when did you? So this is a very hollow ground, as they said. This is a central location for the martial arts practitioners in Vallejo. They kind of grew up here, they branched out here, that kind of thing. How did the impetus come about for you to start this school? What gave you the desire to? Because you've been here since 1968. That is like Bobby Kennedy era, Summer of Love era. Like, how did that, how was the impetus? Like,
well, actually, how I got started was when I was taking classes in Fairfield. And I made my black belt in 1966. My teacher, Antonio Ramos, he wanted to open up the school here in Vallejo because of the fact that two of the fellas that was here in Vallejo, one was a Japanese Shotokan and the other was a Japanese Kodokan. They were both from Travis Air Force Base. But because of the fact that in the military, they shipped you any place for different areas. And they were going to lose their school, so they offered it to my teacher, and my teacher decided back in 66 that I would come here and open up the school for him. And due to the fact that I did come here and had a couple, but there's only about 4 of us that I was teaching, and we started in one place in Broadway in Vallejo here until we moved here 2 years later. That's how I got started, because I thought that why give something up that I enjoy doing and I have the time to do it, so why not continue? And that's why I kept it going as long as I could. And all honesty, I had the help with guys like Gerald to help me keep it going, and other instructors in the past to make this thing the way it is today.
That's awesome. So give us kind of like a decade breakdown of so the 60s, like what was kind of like the key things that happened there? How was that different from the 70s? 80s came along, 90s, 2000s.
The difference because of the time, the people, mainly the people. Like I said earlier, when I first started, I only had just about like 3 or 4 gentlemen, no ladies. And then as time goes by, then we incorporated a couple ladies because of friends I knew. And then after that, we had like teenagers. And from the teenagers, because the small fries wanted to learn, we had the small fries come in. And so it became a thing that people want to do. And fortunately, we were one of the very few schools that had the opportunity to have people, to study. There's other schools like Taekwondo schools, and they're, have what their prices are in comparison to us. But because basically, I have to say it this way, I'm mostly a Vallejo resident. It has helped me get the students that I did from the past.
How would you compare the generations back then to like how it is now? Would you say, I don't care if you're back on millennials or Gen Z, Are they basically softer than they were back when the kids back then?
They were.
How would you compare like the generations?
Well, it's the generation now. I think it's more like for kids now. Then it was like for adults. Like I said earlier, we only had adults because that was the main thing. And then as things started growing up, the generation started going up for the kids. You have a lot of kids going out and doing their MMA, mixed martial art now. And so there's where you're doing your wrestling and your grappling and you're hitting each other in the face with a mask on. But the small kids get an idea of how to learn how to make their movements with good gestures, know the left from the right, and know how to stand tall. Let me put it that way.
So the main thing that you would think about is like back then it was an adult activity because it was meant for combat, and now it's more like a child character building and fitness.
Yeah, for the sake of kids not being able to be bullied. That's another step. No parents want their kids to be bullied. So a lot of them are trying to learn how to defend themselves their own way.
Okay. And over the years, what would you think like would be like a list of things that you could share to people that you've learned from Kaju as a person? I'm not talking about martial techniques. I'm not talking about principles of combat, but like, character building. What have you learned?
This is what we and Professor Gerald is trying to build is the character, the person to be able to stand up on his own and be himself, to be a better person. We do what we can to help the student become a lot better than they are. And that's one of our biggest reasons here that we have here. Besides health and self-defense, we try to make sure that they become a better person.
Over the years, people that have essentially like graduated from this academy or, like trained from here, you see them join the military or maybe become like nurses and doctors, become other professions. Do they still come and have contact with you?
Periodically. Yeah. Because I have like a doctor that's in Uruguay, and he periodically lives here, and he was raised and born here, and he periodically comes by. So they do come by periodically.
So he lives in Uruguay. That's really cool.
Pardon?
He lives in Uruguay. That's
yeah. One of my kids, his dad is from that area, and so he went to college there, or is going to college there, and he periodically comes home to visit. There's others that come to visit to say hello.
Concerning the thing, what my final question, and this has nothing to do with any more lists that was sent to me. The last few have been just ad hoc, but this is I always ask. Have you touched the occult or esoteric side of martial arts? Was there any kind of like, just different, like a spiritual thing, like maybe you had a dream and you were visited by your master, or you saw some person and like their skills were just so extraordinary, it was almost like doing a Jedi mind trick or using the Force or something? Do you have anything like that you could share?
No, I actually don't have any. The only thing I had is what had happened when I was a younger person. So everything that I have now is like today's date, and then the involvement is my concept is to get guys like Professor Gerald and my other assistants to become a better person and help teach what I know and what they know to make everything work better.
Okay, so I am going to close with this particular question. Let's kind of set up this camera over here. Sorry, kind of like have your breath because I know we've been going strong for about 45 minutes now. You are at the twilight of your years. What do you, two questions to close out before we do the techniques. What do you want to be remembered by? And what legacy do you want to like leave behind with Kaju?
I guess just to remember me as the fact that I was a teacher here that helped the students or the people that wanted to learn the martial art. And legacy is to help the art through what we do keep going for the sake of the life itself.
Cool. And now we're done with the official question portion of the of the interview. Is there a way that you could show us like some demo, some of your techniques, and you'd be the okay?
Yeah, I'll be doing it.
No. Unless, can you and Gerald, Alex and my word is very.
Yeah, this is Fox.
Yeah, Fox.
Yeah, Fox is good. Okay.
Is that the big money one?
The big money.
Keep it on the TV. How much did you pay for that?
I could have bought 200 of those.
Yeah, straight from Italy. Straight from Italy.
You want this move?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My old age. you, Alex, you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
Make it simple.
I'm really going to enjoy this.
This is for us. This is for us.
We haven't played.
No cups.
Yeah, I have a cup.
Yeah, I would have came prepared. I would have one. So basically, this is our punch chart. So what we do here is we teach people. Yeah, you're talking. You're having a conversation, right? Out of the blue, this guy decides he wants to punch you, right? So the punch is going to go right into your face, right? So this is just like the way we do in FMA. So you punch, boom, right? You see that? So first counter is this one. Basically, you're redirecting the fist, and this can go right into his eye. That's FMA. This is Kaju now. So when he punches, boom, right? That's one. That's the first motion. Number two is I go for his bicep. Basically, you hit it so hard that it'll create a kind of a sting in his arm. Boom. The third strike would be to the groin. Bam, right there, right? So you see how his body chemistry, his body's going down now. Boom. So now I drop my feet the same way where it started, right? So here I'm going to pull back with my left. Watch what happened to this arm when I pull back with my left. Bam. See, look at that face. Bam, right? So now I backhand here and I kick him again. Or I can follow up. Boom. If he's still standing, then I push. Okay? That's just the very basic of somebody striking you. Again, somebody punch. One, right here, to the face. Of course, everybody wants to hit you in the face. One, see? Two, three. This all goes together. Boom, right? Drop, step back, bam. Now right here, boom. Here.
The balance, lots of balance.
Boom. Okay, so the person that's striking you, okay, the person that's striking you loses his balance. See, like if I go with Alex, do that. See that? Boom. See, same concept as FMA.
Oh, yeah.
Again, same concept as FMA. Boom. See that? How he steps more to my right side, but ours is more direct. We don't back down. Again, I drop.
The similarities.
The similarities between FMA and Kajukenbo is right there. Nothing changed. Okay?
I think just like main interpretation that you're doing with Kaju is like a very similar concept when it comes to gun standards of double tap. Because essentially you're shocking the central nervous system.
Yeah, shock the nerve, of course.
Yeah, because you
want to take away his momentum. His momentum is coming full speed. Now remember, when somebody's striking you, let's say I'm striking you, right? Watch the fist. Just see, watch. You see that? He can't pull back anymore. When that fist is going, it's not gonna, oh shit, I'm gonna pull it back. It's not gonna happen. Once that fist is going, it's committed. It's like a stick. It's committed when you go for a strike. So when you go for a strike, see, it's committed. It's coming already. So all I'm doing is just redirecting that fist. So it won't hit my face.
Yes.
So once I do this, see that? You see how the arm, you see how when I do this, his arms are straight. It's coming right in my face. So when I do this, look what happens. The arm is redirected. Now it's going one way. Then all I add is this kick right here. Now, I like kicking in the groin because it eliminates everything that he wants to use against me. Once I kick his groin, his whole body now is gone. There's no more sense for him to fight. If he wants to keep fighting me, then he's really going to be in bad shape. Because this is just boom, bam, right here. 1, 2, follow up again, bam. and then I can just finish up from there.
That kick from the in the groin is a front kick, not an oblique kick.
No, it's a straight front kick.
Straight front.
And here's what we teach at our school. You should be able to kick, a groin or any part of your body here from here, without even looking. See, if you're talking to somebody, he decides he wants to punch me. Always remember your leg is longer than your arm. So if he tries to punch me, look, I can reach him first before he can reach me. So that kick to the groin is going to hit him, boom, and then that will just eliminate everything that he's trying to do to me. Without even me doing this, if I'm too late, if I can't do this, my leg will hit him first. Okay, that is the difference between Kaju. So we focus a lot on hitting the groin.
I was asking later about forms that you do essentially.
Yes.
Can you show some of that?
So this is our form. Basically, how do you want to put this way? So this is our form, right? Just like anything else, we stand from the standing position. So our form, then we go back up. Again, from the standing position. So when we go back up, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Now that first 3 movements, if he's attacking me, punch, 1, then punch again, 2, and then 3. Boom. See, that's our first 3 movements. Now, it doesn't have to be like he's punching me. He can be just trying to grab, see, grab again, Okay,
show that inside profile view now, because I did shoot it with this one. You can shoot it then. Yeah,
so he's attacking me. I'm standing here. All of a sudden, he decides he wants to look. There's the first block. There's the second block. There's the third block. So from that motion, you see what happens? I created a distance, and I created a blocking technique. That way, he can't get to me. Okay. So the first thing, those first 3 movements again from here, 1, 2, 3. That's the first 3 movements all the time on this piña. Now, that's by punching. But let's say he's just trying to grab it. Grab. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So those are your first 3 movements. Now, to complete it, so I'm right here. Again. 1, 2, 3. Then I go to my next one. Come here. Push, punch, elbow. Then I turn it cover. Here I block, I grab him. Why we do this is because that way he doesn't get away from me. Then I move forward, I attack cup his ear, and I bend down to his groin, uppercut to his face, then I turn back towards him again, and then I do my X. This is piña number 1. So our dance, they have a meaning.
Yes.
It's just not, some people, what are you doing? Right? They're just doing blocks and they're doing movements, but they cannot explain to you what they're doing.
Yes.
So Grandmaster was able to break it all down, what we're doing.
So you have what they would call in karate, like his bunkai is really strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, the actual application.
Application, absolutely. All of our dances, they have applications. So that's piña number 1. It's a little bit longer. And then
What do you call it?
Piña.
Piña.
Piña. P-I-N-I-O-N. Piña. So basically, in some of the other Kajukenbos, they call it Palama sets. Yeah, Palama sets. Hawaii, another version from Hawaii. Palama sets. But here we call it piña. That's the long version, which is average about 14 moves. Okay, and then we have concentration. Basically, a concentration goes like this. The thing that we do in concentration, we take a deep breath, right?
Just for the breathing.
We hold it for control. So the whole time you hold your breath. You don't let it go. So that way, it's a lot harder when you're moving and you're not breathing. Does that make sense? That's why we call it concentration. This was started by Tony Ramos.
I'm home.
Yes, Mr. Ramos. He's the only one that has these sets, and we carried it forward in our dojo because I don't know if other dojos does it, but we do here. So we have two dances. We have piñons or palama sets, and then we have concentrations. And basically, all of those movements, they have a meaning. So again, we start from here all the time, from the standing position. As soon as somebody attacks you, you move. You don't wait around. You either move back or you move forward. There's no side to side. We do it, but in our dances, we go back or we go forward on our attacks. And then we have piña number 3, where we go sideways, 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. So we're just going this way. Most of the time we're going 12 to 6.
So the forms are all against different opponents. It's not one opponent. So that's what you're doing.
So you're saying it's not just one opponent?
Yeah. It's a multiple opponents that you're against, that you're attacking.
Yeah, so concerning that, have you found that holding your breath in has helped you in actual combat? Because, like, if you can hold your breath that long, wouldn't that help with your endurance? I'm guessing.
It does. Yes, it does. Because here, I'm already 62. Breathing like that is hard, right? And I had a quadruple bypass, so it's even harder. So I'm trying to hold everything, trying to hold that breath. Because before you move, you're right here. Before you move, you take like 3 deep breaths. So you hold it for the whole way. So the faster you get everything done, the more you feel your power too. And then when you're done, you let all that energy go.
That's actually kind of very similar to a boxing training. It's taken to the extreme because of Vasily Lomachenko. But then when you go underwater, or maybe you're holding your breath. You're holding your breath, and they typically time it by the round. So like you don't have to go completely submerged underwater. You could just do it like a dead man's float, and then you build up to 3 minutes. True. So that way, like, wow, if you can hold your breath for 3 minutes, like this dude can punch nonstop for 3 minutes and not get winded.
You not get exhausted really fast, right? So I think the concentration, Tony Ramos' concept was, you learning how to. It's a lot harder to move, and I can attest to it. It's a lot harder to move when you're holding your breath because you're exerting a lot. See, when you're punching, right? I don't feel anything when I'm doing this, when I'm breathing. But if I'm holding my breath and I'm punching, right? It's a lot harder because it's like you want to give in to that force, but you're holding that force back. Does that make sense? Because here, like we're talking, and I'm punching, that's nothing. But now I'm holding my breath. It's a lot harder. It's like something's not giving in. Yeah, you're kind of making it hard for yourself. So, but you do in the end, at the end of the concentration, when you're doing that final X block, this is what we call X block. This is a signature block for Kajukenbo. So when you're doing your final X block and you let everything go, you feel really good. It's like you released all the tension in your body. You feel really good.
Part of it too.
Yeah.
It's tension.
Releasing that tension, and it makes it a lot better. Now I was going to show you a 2-man attack. I know that you asked about that. Now, we use the 2-man attack, again, basically because you're never going to fight one guy. Okay, let's say you're in a crowded place. Yes, sir. Really quick. Grandmaster is right here. He's going to... So, the purpose of the 2-man attack, here our concept is because you never know who's going to be fighting you. Okay? Sometimes we get so focused on one guy, there's another guy somewhere. He's going to blindside you. See? And here, again, everything is you're punching the face. See? It's always to the face. Okay? So you notice when he punches to the face, all I have to do is do this really quick. 1, 2. See that? Now he's going to punch me. Of course, I just hit his buddy, right? This is our 2-man attack number 1 left. Boom! He punches me to the face. Look what I do. All I have to do is move from here, boom, to here. And I go right for his groin, uppercut, and then I grab here. Watch my right leg. I step back. And I toss him to this guy right here. So basically, it's a really quick move.
No problem.
Really quick move. 1, 2, boom, right here. 1, 2. Here, back, back. Here, I step.
And that's a muscle pull. That's not necessarily a lapel grab.
Well, whenever I can grab here. But what I do here is I hit the groin.
But the groin is, again, is the one
Our main target. Again, you hit the groin, it's going to buckle up like this.
Yes.
And then you uppercut in. Right? Boom, back. Here, I can grab his ear. I can grab the collar of his shirt or his jacket. And all I'm doing is using his weight, my back leg. See that? I toss him. And you believe it or not, I can toss a guy who's 200 pounds by that move.
Yes.
Because it's forward motion anyway.
It's forward motion, and the way I pivot, my leg, just like that. It's all body mechanics. You have to learn how to do body mechanics here. You gotta learn. You gotta learn where you hit the guy. If you don't know, hey, I'm gonna hit you. If I hit you hard, bam, the head is gonna go back. It's not gonna go forward. So when you're hitting a muscle though, see, his head goes down. There's no way that his body's not. Boom. See, from here everything just goes. That's yours. If you can do this, punch straight to my face, punch. Look, and this is what we practice every day here. When you're in an adult class, you let him punch you in the face. Don't be afraid. You gotta learn how to. You gotta learn. This really, believe it or not, right here. Bam.
Yeah, the thing is, I can hit the face before.
Yeah,
because my timing's off.
if your timing is off, yes, that's gonna happen.
I can hit before. But I'm still doing it.
Now, you said about the takedown.
Yeah.
Let me show you the takedown. So here we are, right? Again, we're back to the same thing. He's gonna hit me, right? Bam, right? Now, okay, switch your leg. Okay, so from here, normal people when they attack, normally they use this force right here.
Like a boxer.
Like a boxer. So when you punch me like that, boom, right? I drop my leg, same spot. Now you see where his leg's at? I'm gonna do this, switch my arm like this, then I'm gonna kick it. Bam! Basically, when he kicks, you see how he drops? Then I drop it right here. Okay? Now, what happens is this knee goes right here. So basically, what I did here, try to get up. See? I can apply pressure where I just really go like that.
And
Here,
the palm is
up.
up. Yeah.
You see the palm is up?
Yeah.
See, from here, I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is hit his elbow down, back knuckle, then bring it up. Now here, why I lift it up like this, I expose the ribs. So when I do that, I can kick him right here. Okay, then I drop him. Now, this is what we're talking about, multiple opponents. If they see that his buddies has just got jumped, I can step back, keeping my distance. Now I can keep my eyes left or right, watching who else wants to, what's coming. So this is what we're
Alex, you're great.
I'm okay. So that's one of our take groundwork. You know, we have multiple groundworks where if a guy wants to play hardball, you know, again, it's just a matter of how you're going to take him down. I can go this way, sweep him this way. When he sweeps here, I do a George Floyd version. See, here, right here, to the neck, elbow right here, okay? And then I can break that way. So we have this way, we do this way, you know, all right, if I can't get him on the right position, I just do the elbow, you know, switch to the elbow with his elbow right here, okay? Break it that way. Just multiple ways to do the groundwork. Okay?
Yeah. The final question I had was the breathing exercises. We
do.
So can you show maybe a
It's
basic
original.
one?
So basically what we do here, again, we always do this. This is what we call, this is the signature.
And so you're doing that as you're breathing, are you holding the breath in or you're breathing?
So from here, right? So we holding our breath. Same thing on the other side if you want to do a punch. Same thing if we try to block. Dynamic tension. So as you pull this hand is going to move. dynamic tension. So we have punches, blocks that we can do, or we can just push this way. Yeah.
Come down.
So this is the whole
So there's Tai Chi in there, right? Tai Chi's type of breathing.
breathing. Yeah. But not the soft way of Tai Chi.
No.
No,
Hard.
this is hard. We're like, again, the mixture of Kajukenbo. It's karate, judo, kempo, boxing, jiu-jitsu, judo, jiu-jitsu. It's kempo and then boxing, Chinese boxing.
That slap in the groin is so similar to like old Kyoto jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Like,
See, a lot of people don't understand. When you hit a groin, you don't even have to hit it hard.
Yeah.
Boom, a slap tap like this, and then he's gonna buckle right away. That is the biggest weapon that you have. You know how I never forget. I knew a correctional officer guy in San Quentin.
Mm.
He worked at the toughest prison in California. So this guy was telling me he got jumped. He got jumped by a big 6'5" guy. So this guy's a white guy, right? So he wrestled him to the ground. He thought he was going to die in the yard. You know what he did? He grabbed his nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And he held on to his nuts until the officers came and helped him. Or else he would have been dead.
Yeah.
He said, I just grabbed his nuts and I held on. And he survived. Working in San Quentin prison and you were the guard,
Yeah.
if you get attacked by one of the prisoners, they're all going to attack you.
Mm-hmm.
So he saw that he was on the ground. He grabbed the guy's nuts and he just held on to it until the other correctional officers arrived. He survived. He said, I almost died in that yard. But he held on to his nuts. I never forget that.
Yeah.
Because now I know. You hit the nuts, 6'5", it's going down. Have you ever seen the MMA now? MMA guys, you kick the guy in the groin, shoot, by accident now. It's not intentional, by accident. What happened to that guy? Time out.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's MMA.
Yeah.
So you see that softness of that groin,
Mm-hmm.
and he has a cup on.
Mm-hmm.
You can still feel it.
You can still feel it. It stings. We had a guy here last year doing his promotion. So he's doing groundwork. Got the guy, bam! The cup broke.
I was gonna say, you guys are famous for that.
His cup broke, and we just saw him buckle like this. Oh, he said, I felt it. So, but that's basically why we focus on the groin. The throat, the groin, the eyes. You know, we gouge eyes. Boom. You know, I mean, that's one of our signature movies. A slash to the eyes. We go here, slash the eyes.
Can't see anymore.
Can't see it.
We can tear it.
Yeah. All the softness of the weak the weak part of the body, we focus on that.
Yes, yes.
Because you can punch a guy all day long and he's like standing there looking at you, right? But poke his eye.
Yeah.
Look what happens to that guy.
Well, even FMA, if you have any, with the stick.
You hit him in the eye.
Yeah.
Time out, because I love them like FMA because they got that same similarity.
Yeah.
The movement, see the movement right here? When you block, that's an FMA move. But here we just added the fist and the kick.
Actually, I remember my coworker was still learning Kajukenbo. He says, I said, oh, I was new in California. I just came back and he says, I'm just learning Kajukenbo. Oh, my cousin studies that. Can you show me? And the first move is the yes, sir. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm out. And he was like, really? That's dangerous? And I'm like, bro, you hit me 3 times already. And he didn't know, he was a beginner.
He was just going through motion.
Mike Douglas.
Yeah.
Okay. And that Mike Douglas was studying Larcomano with Eddie Lastro.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I got into Kajukenbo.
You did. You wanted to learn.
Yeah. He had a class here once.
And he showed me that home. I'm like, whoa. We were in Walmart working at that time. I'm like, that will really, I won't forget. If you did that to me in the real life, I won't forget you.
You won't forget.
Because there's only 2 ways.
Just Kajukenbo.
There's only 2 ways a guy will hit you, right?
Yeah.
There's a wild punch,
Yeah.
and there's a boxing punch.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 ways. You see the wild guys, and they punch like this, really wide. Bam, like that. Then you got the boxers. Of course, the boxers try to make it look pretty and doing this. But again, all you have to do is do this. When you parry, again, punch. When you parry, look, fast or slow, that hand is going to go one way. It's going to go outward. And same thing as MMA. All I have to do is move this way, and then I just go right in. Go in for an attack. Don't wait around. See, here's the thing is, guys will go, they will freeze in the beginning because they're afraid of that punch.
Yes.
Everybody's afraid of a punch. So they start to freeze. I said, learning how to catch it right here, midair. You have to catch it. Bam. Everything breaks. Boom. Bam. Everything breaks from there. From there, it just, tang. You're down on the ground.
Yes.
And I think that would conclude our episode.
Sorry, I got excited. Oh, no. Yes, sir.
You man. Thank you, sir.
No, and I'm going to be spoiling here, not you guys, because I'm going to ask them a lot of off the record stuff.